Now I'm going to gravitate towards the basically the role of journalists when it comes to reportage, and specifically since we're talking about children in this case. My next question is going to be about, now in Sri Lanka, when we talk about, say, editors or senior journalists, they tend to often gravitate towards sensationalizing headlines. We have this gossip inspired content that is dominating social media today, and even among citizen journalists who are very keen on basically recording things and talking about the share. Basically, they are not passive anymore, is what I'm saying. So, with no such solid regulations in place, how can we address those issues effectively when raising awareness alone doesn't seem enough? If, like you say, when it comes to digital hygiene, we have all of the know-how, we know what to do basically, and it's just a matter of, like, I think being a part of that lifestyle. But then if that's not also being implemented, so what's missing here? Like, what do you think? We keep talking about the same thing, yeah.
I think like what's missing is probably professionalism. Like when you become a journalist, that's a professional post. That's a job that you decide that you want to do. And there are certain kind of elements which make you, or which make the task that you carry out to be termed as journalism, right? You can't just put anything and everything. You have to have verified sourcing. You have to have very clear verification. You have to try to be as balanced as you can, right?
Yes.
And you have to be transparent. Now, the issue here is that whether all of that you spoke about, whether it's journalism or whether it's trying to get content viral. Now, if you try to get content viral, then you're on a different job. But if you are in the profession of journalism, then you have to adhere to the core principles of journalism.
Yeah.
Now, that's not what's happening. Like, for example, if you take headlines, if you misconstrued headlines so that they attract audience, they attract eyeballs, you're basically putting out clickbait. And it's not information, it's misinformation at best, and disinformation and fakes at worst. So you're not in this job. Now, what is happening, and it is not only a case in Sri Lanka, we see this in other parts of the world as well. What is happening here is that why these kind of content is getting the attention that you kind of spoke about is that there is no counterbalance. There is no public service journalism that is active in Sri Lanka. There are a few, but I think those few veer towards probably activism. So they do their journalism for activism. So again, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's a little different from public service journalism. So I think the issue here at stake is that because of an absence of professional journalism and public service journalism, what is highlighted is this kind of very shoddy, commercialized journalism products. And also the other issue that is at play here is that when you don't have public service journalism, then the public lose trust on journalists. So they then feel, okay, this job can be done by anyone and everyone, and we don't need to go to trusted sources. So there's a whole lot of different issues at play here, but fundamentally it's about being professional and adhering to professional standards. And it can be as simple as the language that you use. Because do you use the word rape or something else? Okay, and if you look at this tendency to smudge the faces of in images, they have been kind of pixelated in such a way that anyone who knows that person can clearly recognize who this is. Now, that's not the point here. The point is that we are pixelating those pictures because giving them that kind of clarity means that we are either undermining ethical standards or something worse.
Right. Yes, Ms. Amantha. So now, speaking of ethical reporting, now what we are trying to also do through these types of sessions is to educate the layman out there, exactly like we were talking about, like citizen journalists, those who are doing this content on the side, other than the professionals out there. If we want to explain in detail, or at least in layman terms, what ethical reporting means when covering sensitive issues that involves children, particularly when it comes to an abuse case or exploitation, a child being hit by a parent. We see all of this being circulated on TikTok, or one of the recent examples being the suicide case of the three students from Malta and Nilupokuna. And there was this misinformation that followed, and basically people commenting, and then so why is it critical to avoid that sensationalism or revealing identifying details? I mean, I know that you did shed little light on that, but how can we tell people, look, this is critical, that you really need to, how do we give them that message?
The issue here is to build awareness on possible harm, right? Now, what happens if you put the image that can be identified of a minor who has been subjected to abuse? Now,
Yeah.
that can do so much of harm. And also, if it's a digitized picture, if it's available in online space, that means it will be there forever. As long as, you have digital online resources, it will be there. So that means the damage can happen for years and years and years and years and years to come. So that's the point. It's like, why do we regard someone as a minor? There are reasons for that. So we have to respect that. And if you don't respect those, and if you just want to kind of gain popularity by putting out that kind of content, it's actually a decision and a judgment that you make for yourself. And one of the most simplest ways of figuring out what is right and what is wrong in terms of putting out this kind of content is to put yourself in that position. So you write a headline saying so and so was raped. Now, would I want to put my name and write that headline, or would I want to put the name of someone who is very close to me or someone known to me and run that headline? Would I do that? So again, we come back to that same thing that I spoke about at the beginning, where the same standards that we apply on others, we need to apply to ourselves. Now, this is happening in the reverse case here. So that's the point. That the point is that, I mean, I'll talk about one example which is so far away, so far out, that probably lots of people probably don't know about this. After the tsunami, there was a story about a baby, a baby 81 from Ampara, who, mothers, they said several mothers were, trying to claim this boy as their kid. So now what happened was that the story itself happened because of really bad misreporting by two foreign journalists from a country very close by to Sri Lanka, who didn't double check or verify. But it just became so popular. And that kid and his family went and appeared on TV in the US. And when they came back to the village, everybody thought that they're super rich. They have got so much of money. Ultimately, they actually had to leave that village, right? And now no one's reporting about that kid who's probably now an adult, and no one wants to follow back. Now, who is responsible for the damage that was done to that boy and his family? So this is the issue. There are millions of examples like that. So why we adhere to certain guidelines and certain sets of ethics is because of possible harm.